Hi everyone, before this episode begins, I'd like to thank this episode's sponsor and sponsor behind the mod, NodeCraft. NodeCraft is an awesome Minecraft server hosting provider that lets you easily make a server with a great custom control panel. You can install mods and mod packs very easily. They have great support. I use them personally. They're amazing. So check out the link in the description for 15% off your first month with NodeCraft. Thanks to NodeCraft for sponsoring this episode and all of Behind the Mod. Hello everyone, it's me Amaxter with Behind the Mod Season 3, Episode 14 with Aroma1997. Hello.
Hey,
So, how did you get started modding for Minecraft?
okay, I was playing on a modded Minecraft server, and there was a server admin who really hated holes in the overworld because everyone put down buildcraft quarries to mine resources. And I was pretty noobish at programming, so I thought I'd do something about that, and that's essentially how the mining world mod started and how I got into Minecraft modding.
Yeah, the Mining World mod was, I think, it used to be a really popular, utility mod. And now there's, lots of mods have their own versions of that, but I think it was a really good idea back then because you did have the situations where, you had all this, especially with more ores and all those tech mods, you really kind of needed a resource world because your overworld would just get depleted extremely quickly and it would end up looking terrible, or you just have to do frequent world resets. So I think it was really nice to be able to have a separate dimension for that.
Yeah, that's the concept behind it.
hmm And then, yeah, that was you made a few other mods like better chests too, right?
Yeah, Better Chests was a mod I created for, I think it was the second mod jam. And so basically in mod jam, you have to make a mod in, I think, 4 days or so. And then all people who participated in there can vote for their favorite mod. And that's where I originally created Better Chests. I updated it for a few Minecraft versions, but in the end, I don't think it was worth the effort. And 1.8 broke most of it, so I kind of discontinued it.
hmm And yeah, after the 1.8 transition was, tough time for modders. So I'm guessing you started making new kinds of mods around that time, right?
Um, Not really. Like I've been making different kinds of mods before that and after it, but like in 1.8 and the 1.8 update, I kind of dropped what was really hard to maintain because the update was relatively hard and I didn't have too much time left. So I kind of dropped what was eating the most time but gave least reward.
hmm Right. And I don't know the exact timeline for this, but at some point you started working on IndustrialCraft too, right?
That's true.
When was that?
Um, One of the mods I made earlier was a mod similar to compact solars. It was called compact windmills. And at some point in IndustrialCraft, they added mechanical energy and they implemented windmills. And at some point, Thunderdark PM'd me on the IndustrialCraft forums if they could use my rendering code. And one thing led to the other, and now I'm in the IC2 team.
hmm Yeah, and it's kind of cool because IC2 it's one of those mods where there's a really vibrant add-on community for it. I think it's only rivaled by stuff like Thaumcraft. So it's really cool to see how a feature like that got incorporated, and you ended up being one of the lead maintainers of it.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't too many add-ons that are still being updated, but it used to be really popular and it used to have a lot of add-ons. And some of them are still around.
hmm Yeah, and how do you find that is? Because IC2, it's really different now than it was before when a lot of people knew it. The experimental branch, has obviously done its own thing. What is it like developing that style of mod?
Um, it's really interesting because not only is IC2 different now than it was earlier, but it's also different than most other mods, as in it doesn't use RF. It has its own energy system with its own part to it, like explosions of machines if they receive too high of a voltage. And it's like most people don't know particularly on how to deal with that kind of difference. So it's really interesting to work on IC2 because the community has so many different opinions on what happens in IC2. Like some people don't like what's happening, and that's okay. But some people don't know what's happening or just have a different opinion. And you could really see that during the 1st of April last year, the different opinions of people about IC2. Because that
RF.
really gave us an insight on what people thought about it.
Right. For those who don't know, the April Fool's joke last year was that on Reddit you said that that IC2 would be switching to RF, and that caused, like, it's funny because there were some people who were really excited about that, and there was also plenty of people who were really outraged about that, and that turned out not to be true. But I think it did a really good job of showing, what people thought of that decision.
Yeah. It also kind of showed us that it's indeed the correct thing for us to keep some of the traditions of IC2 alive, because most people either didn't care or liked the way it was earlier, like with its own thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense because IC2 is balanced quite differently, especially for modern tech mods, just the way they are. It makes sense that it should kind of be its own separate kind of thing. And these days, it's also not super hard to convert EU to RF. But you don't have to adopt, a different energy system. IC2, what makes IC2 IC2 is that it's very, it pioneered its own energy system, EU, and the way the energy net works. And I think that's still a major part of it.
Yeah, that's true.
So you also make Uncomplication. I'm not sure that's still developed, but that's like an IC2 add-on that bridges, some of the classic features that people enjoyed back into IC2, right?
Yeah. I really enjoyed IC2 before it was before the experimental branch, and that was also before I was in the IC2 dev team. So at some point they started experimental, and I had a mixed opinion about it. So I brought the things I liked from classic back to experimental as an add-on. I didn't want to put it into core IC2 because some people might like IC2 the way it is now. Some people might like IC2 more the way it was earlier. So I just published it as an add-on, and it basically brings back the old feel of Uncomplication of IC2.
Right, and it's interesting that it's an add-on because there's been other attempts at that haven't been add-ons. I think I forget who it was. Was it? I forget the name, but I know someone did a fork, and then Spiegel has his own version called IC2 Classic. There was one Amebis. Amebis did it. Did the old fork of sorts, and then Spiegel now has his own one called IC2 Classic, which are different, different mods. I think one of them works with normal IC2 add-ons, but they both kind of try to achieve the same thing by being their own totally different mods.
Yeah, that's true. I originally decided to make it as an add-on because I was in the IC2 team, and I wanted the classic feeling of IC2, but I also wanted to address the large player base behind IC2, and that was only possible by making it an add-on. By making it a standalone version, we would have yet another IC2 fork, and I didn't like that idea.
Right, and that makes sense. And it probably works better too for compatibility with add-ons. Works better than making your own whole new mod.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, you've done that. What do you do on the IC2 team, like when it comes to maintaining it?
Um, I'm doing nearly everything. Like I'm doing bug fixes, I'm adding new features. Uh, in IC2 we don't have that that role system where that person does this and that person does that. We basically do like everyone does what he likes and what needs to be done. So we all do bug fixes, we all improve things, and we all add new features. So yeah, that's what we do basically.
Huh, that's an interesting approach. I know, there's lots of, like we mentioned before, the modern tech mods are kind of different. Do you find that IC2 in its current state is borrowing ideas from them or trying to integrate with them in other ways, given that people are playing with, a very different set of mods nowadays than they were a few years ago?
There are not many ideas I think we borrowed from other mods, but there's I've seen a lot of things the other way around. Like when people were so excited about upgrades in thermal expansion in the IC2 team, we already had upgrades since beta, and
Hmm,
there are
yeah.
some other things like that, but we don't usually borrow many ideas from other mods.
Right. But do you find that you have to like integrate with other mods, or is most of that work done kind of for you for mods that go out on their own to integrate with IC2? Because it is, it's using its own power system. It has its own set of machines. Do you like to keep that separate, or do you like to encourage people to use it with other mods?
Um, Both. I would say it's both because on one side we like to keep IC2 the way IC2 is, and because IC2 has such a large player base, the community uses that uses the API of IC2 and the other mods to make them kind of compatible in the way the community wants to. So it's not really us saying we want this part of compatibility or that compatibility. It's mainly the community making add-ons that make things compatible and make things interact with each other.
Yeah, there's a big community effort, and there is even though IC2 isn't as popular as it was back then, it still has quite a passionate following, I think. And there's also people who I think are really enjoying using it because it's actually pretty quick to update versions most of the time, right?
For the size of the mod it's probably relatively fast to update, but like in the 1.11 update that's happening right now, we weren't that fast because I had a lot of things to do with the university,
hmm
and the other dev, uh, the other members of the dev team also had lots of things to do in real life. So yeah, it's like we're not the fastest, but for the size of IC2, it's not too bad, I think.
And it's interesting because on 110, up until a few weeks ago, thermal expansion wasn't updated. Buildcraft still isn't updated, and IC2 has been on 110 for a few months now. So do you think there were people who kind of got their tech fix from that, even if they hadn't used IC2 in a while, or maybe like never before?
I doubt that because either people like IC2 or people don't like IC2. I haven't seen many people that earlier said, I don't like IC2 or I never played with it, and in the newer versions tried it out. The only time I've seen people use IC2 when they weren't a big fan of it was in that Feed the Beast pack where they had that hardcore mode where you were forced to use IC2.
Infinity evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting now. I don't Is IC2 and Beyond? I don't think it is.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Is IC2 in the new Beyond FTB pack?
I think it is. I'm not sure though.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting because there was a lot of drama with Beyond initially, just because they were tweaking recipes and stuff like for Voski's mods. I don't think any of that stuff was as severely affecting IC2, but IC2 still does get used in a lot of mod packs in general. What are your views on people rebalancing with either their own recipes or add-on style mods like like we talked about before on complication that really change the core nature of the mod? Like, what do you think of that?
I really like that idea because um, not all people are the same. Not all people like the same things, and not all people have the same progression speed. So rebalancing things, changing recipes, or changing, as we said earlier, changing interactions between mods is something that gets done by the community because, as I said earlier, not everyone is the same. Not everyone likes the same things. And I really like that idea of you don't like something, you make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great motto just in general for the modded community. Just how many people have revived dead mods, or the fact that IC2 has been able to live a healthy life as long as it has, is pretty incredible, and I think that's possible because of community support.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Without such a large community or player base, a tech mod or a mod in general would not get that far. Like IC2 is, if I remember correctly, it existed for 6 or 7 years, or
Yeah,
even
and that's
more.
kind of crazy. I mean, that's basically as old as Minecraft itself. I mean, at least in beta or something, it's pretty old.
Yeah, it is. The only two mods I know that are that old is IC2 and BuildCraft.
Right, and it's interesting because that's where things started. Tech, for one reason or another, with modding for Minecraft, and now it's still one of the main draws of it. It's definitely true that there's been more and more like magic style mods, but I think the fact that there's packs like FTB Beyond, that are as popular as they are proves that people always like having machines, having automation in Minecraft. And that's kind of a permanent thing.
Yeah, that's true.
hmm And so, with your work on IC2, have you had time to work on any of your own mods or do anything else?
Um, I like IC2 is obviously a big mod, bigger than all of my other mods together. And I also put more work towards IC2 than towards all of my other mods. But as I said earlier, the entire IC2 team is working on everything. So you can just take a break for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and work on different things. Work on real life, work on other mods, and yeah, that's how it is. I got a lot of time. I spend a lot of time for my own mods as well, especially during the updating phase of updating between Minecraft versions.
Right. And you made like a few very small mods like Step Up Fix, but the auto jump stuff. And do you
Yeah.
plan to do more like that, like make more kind of tweak mods that are new, as more features get added to the game and people want to customize them?
The tweak mods mainly get created because I'm playing Minecraft in a mod pack or on a server or whatever. And there's that one thing that really pisses me off. So I go ahead and change it. And that's basically how the small mods get created. And depending on if I find something new that I really don't like in Minecraft or not, that means I'm gonna create a new mod or not.
hmm Yeah. And is it easier to just make, I mean, because you mentioned IC2 is such a big mod, is it kind of refreshing to work on your own mods, which are a lot simpler?
It's it's interesting. That's an interesting question. Um, the fact that they are smaller doesn't mean they are simpler. There's still a lot of logic involved in even smaller mods. I mean, some mods are made more properly than others, and the ones that are made properly, they are also complex, even if they're small. But if they aren't made that properly, like for example the step up fix mod, um, that's like it. I think it's 10 lines of code what it does, and that's one example of it being simple. But the other mods I have are also complex. You just don't need that many complex logic or that much complex logic. You just need like smaller parts of that complex logic. So complexity-wise, it's not that different working on IC2 or working on smaller mods.
Hmm. Yeah, and the other thing is with smaller mods, they may be, not people don't think, like no one makes a mod pack and then advertises, we feature step up fixer. Like but when players use it, it makes a really big difference. Like inventory tweaks. I think most people would not want to play a pack without that. With those kind of mods, which actually end up being the most useful oftentimes.
Yeah, like JEI.
Yeah, exactly. JEI or Wayla or Wyla, whatever it is now. Those kind of things are just, again, permanent, and people seem to always gravitate to them. No matter what pack they're playing, they could be playing, a Skyblock pack or just a normal tech pack, and they'll be using that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think of I'm gonna ask this now. What do you think of 112 for modding?
Oh, 112. You mean the recipe JSON files?
Uh, I'm not aware of that. What is
Yeah,
that?
like in 112, as far as I know, they'll add item stack immutability and JSON files for recipes. The latter one is really nice to have, but it requires a lot of rewriting because currently a lot of the Minecraft code base and a lot of the mods code depends on item stacks being editable, and yeah, it's nice if it's changed, but it will also hit performance if it's changed. So I'm kind of mixed opinion about that, but I think in the end it makes things better.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding the recipe JSON files, I don't really like that because we need to make even more JSON files than we already have to, and there's not much of an improvement. Like I see the point of giving more power to the resource pack makers,
Mm-hmm.
but in modded Minecraft where you can just make a mod to change recipes, a JSON file won't get you anywhere. For example, in IC2, we don't use the normal recipes that would be used for JSON files because we have items that have charge. So if you, for example, craft a battery pack and your batteries in the input are charged, your output should also be charged, otherwise you lose energy. And things
Mm-hmm.
like that are not possible with the vanilla recipe thing.
E-
So yeah, the JSON files don't really get you anywhere in modded Minecraft.
yeah, on one hand, stuff like that is really useful to vanilla players or vanilla resource pack makers who can do crazy stuff now that they couldn't before. But for modded, we already have like Mindtweaker, and it hooks with that for a ton of other mods, crafting handlers, including IC2. So it's not like we really need that. So it's tough because it looks like Mojang's kind of trying to increasingly go in the direction of the console and pocket versions with the add-on system, just making the resource packs more and more powerful. But it's tough because it does seem to be making it harder for mods to update. But um, I'm sure maybe in a few months, 112 will probably be the standard version, assuming it's not like a complete mess, but we'll see about that, I guess.
Yeah, but first it needs to come out, and then we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, hopefully, like, even with Forge, I remember 110, maybe it was, that Forge said they would try to get an update out, day one, but they got delayed a bit. Like, it's never easy to mod Minecraft,
Yeah,
especially at the lower levels.
but the update to 110, 19 to 110, not really many things changed. The update to 110 was mainly in Minecraft. Mojang just added more content. They didn't change any of the existing behavior,
Hmm.
at least not much. That's why the 110 version was so easy to update for Forge and for other mods. Like most mods, you could just use the 1.9 version in the 110 version of Minecraft.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a nice exception. But that's not, I guess that can't always be the case because Mojang wants to implement new under the hood stuff like they always do. And hopefully modding will adapt, or maybe who knows, maybe we'll all be on 111 and we'll be happy with that, just like with 1.7. I guess remains to be seen.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Um, yeah, IC2 maybe will be updated pretty quickly, maybe not.
First, we need to get it to 111, then we'll think about 112.
Right. And how's that going with 111?
We started like 2 days ago on making the 110 version more more similar to what we will need to do in the 111 version. So we might be able to just get bug fixes or new features in the 110 version as well. After we update. So we don't have to backport it, but that we can just make one change and it's the same on 111 and 110. That's what we've been up to in the last couple of days. But that's the idea behind it. So currently we've only changed things in the 110 version, but we haven't started on 111 yet, except for these preparations.
Yeah, it's a weird time because lots of mod authors have to basically be cross-compatible, release 110 and 111 versions of their mods. And so because you have people playing Beyond, you have people on 110 still because there's still a lot of mods that haven't updated, and then you have a lot of people also on 111 because there's a decent amount of mods that have updated, but not quite all of them. So it's this interesting situation where people are juggling back and forth between those two versions.
Yeah, that's I every now and then we still get requests to fix a bug in the 1.7.10 version, which is obviously a couple of years old now. But yeah, these Minecraft updates split the player base a bit.
Yeah, and I think we're finally starting to pry off 1.7, especially with Feed the Beast having a pack and um, just all the developments that have happened, thermal expansion. But it is interesting because it must be kind of strange to get people asking for that when it's years old. I mean, it's understandable, but at the same time, you probably don't want to revisit a several-year-old code base.
Yeah, what I usually do is for older versions, I'll still do bug fixes, but I won't add new features or backport features from newer versions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is reasonable. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, thanks for coming on today in general, just to talk about your modding experience. Do you have any more closing thoughts?
Mm, no.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for coming on. We couldn't mention all your mods, quite a them, but I think we mentioned a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. Um, and yeah, hope you continue to, give gifts to the modding community with all the stuff you do. And hope IndustrialCraft continues to do well. And thank you everyone for watching this episode. You can catch us as a podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and all that stuff, and on YouTube. And yeah, see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.